Barking Dog here. We're going to do a carburetor video today about tear down and reassembly as if you're going to clean your carburetor. This is a key-in off of a 1986 CR500. The carburetors are all pretty much the same. There might be a few different little techniques here and there for different models, but pretty much all the same. I have a Phillips screwdriver. I have a hollow ground straight point screwdriver. The hollow ground straight point is going to flatten out instead of being a taper. If you just use a cheap hardware store screwdriver, it's not going to be a taper, or a hollow ground, excuse me. This is a years old 4-in-1 screwdriver. You can probably get these at Home Depot or about anywhere. I got a 6mm wrench. I got a 14mm wrench. I got my Mikuni impact with a 17 on it, and a Phillips. I found with the Phillips tip and the impact, it isn't as important to use a JIS screwdriver. JIS is Japanese Industrial Standard, which actually, these screws are not Phillips, they are JIS screws. Now you know why you've been stripping them out for the last 20 years. Okay, this couldn't be easier. Take the top cap off. There's going to be a spring under it. There's your throttle valve. Now on this model, you just turn the retainer about a quarter turn counterclockwise to get the needle out. You got a 17mm drain plug on the bottom. With an O-ring. The starter or choke valve is going to be 14mm. Sometimes you have to use a thin wall socket. Sometimes you have to use a special tool. I actually don't have the special tool. I usually use miniature channel locks. Seems to work pretty good. A hand impact works really good too if you don't have a JIS screwdriver. There's your fuel bowl. This one's going to have a little splash guard on it. I believe they actually call that a jet holder, but it doesn't really hold anything. There's your main jet. Pilot jet. I'm going to use a little right angle awl here to push the float pin out, and there's the float with the float valve. Now if you have trouble getting that float pin out, I've got a separate video on that. Don't break it. That's it. There's a couple different things you can use to clean the carburetor. I like Berryman's Chem Dip. Seems to work pretty good for me. I usually go with about an hour-and-a-half dwell time. You can get that at Walmart or AutoZone. And then I usually wash it with Stoddard solvent, just regular solvent I get from Tractor Supply. You could probably use gasoline or kerosene or diesel or whatever. Use it with exceptional care if it has a high flash point. So you can just hold that float up there, and you can see how it fits into the recesses on the carburetor. You don't want to put it in there upside down. You'll never get the fuel bowl on, and you can tell just it doesn't look right. It obviously goes that way. It has a little tab that the float valve goes on. The float valve sits down in the float seat. Float pin goes back in. Snug up the main. Snug up the pilot. Now the splash guard again just goes on there one way. If you try to put it on the other way, it just won't fit. Typically these have a little emulsion tube in them, or a vent tube, and that has to fit down in a certain spot, which on that one is right there. These Phillips head screws do need replaced. Somebody probably did a field cleaning on this bike without a JAS screwdriver and didn't have an impact, and the screw heads were a little boogered up on this one. The choke valve goes right in there. It has a plastic collar, so just snug, not too tight. You can see that works just fine. The throttle valve, needle's going to drop right down in there. Quarter turn clockwise. Retains it. The throttle valve can only go in there one way. Spring on top. Now you probably want to hook your throttle cable up before you put your top cap on. But just for the sake of the video, I'm not going to hook a cable up to it. Make sure the O-ring stays down so you don't pinch it in there. There you have it, back together. Throttle valve operates fine. You can pull it all the way wide open and let it snap close. It should snap hard. Choke should stay up. That's it. Couldn't be easier. So I hope that helps you out. Thanks for watching.